Well, that was interesting. Thank you all for being here. My name is Anthony Barokas. I am the Chief Gearhead here at StreamTek, and I am on vacation, but I'm still doing these live shows. And today I've got a special guest. If you've seen me talk about all different types of live streaming production, I've talked a lot about vMix, I've talked about a TriCaster, I've talked about hardware switching. One thing I haven't talked about is mimoLive. And I have someone here to tell us all about mimoLive. He's probably the chief expert on mimoLive. We'll get to him in a minute. But as always, I love to say hello to everyone who's watching the show around the world. And as part of that, I like to know where everyone is watching from. So if you haven't chimed in already, do chime in. Let me know where you're watching from. And because I always love to find that out, Andreas already chimes in. He's watching from Greece. Also, I'm very interested. One of the things I found when I was trying to create this show was the fact that I am in Germany. And some of the browsers recognize the fact that it's at local time. Other browsers don't, or different pages and different services see the local time or they don't see the local time. So when I was creating this event, I had to try and guesstimate whether I was creating it on local time or US time or daylight savings time or not daylight savings time. So I don't even know if I hit the right mark. Normally I do this show at 11 a.m. Central Time, but today I had 5 different time zones floating around, and I'd look at one browser. LinkedIn would tell me local time, YouTube would tell me other time. It was very, very confusing. So if you haven't already, tell me where you're watching from and let me know if I hit the right time. And also, anytime throughout this show, this is a live show, and if you're here live, be sure to throw your questions and comments into the comment area. I will also let you know that LinkedIn is not working. I tested that while we were in pre-show. I threw a comment in and I saw our guest, Oliver, put a comment in, and they have not shown up in the comments in Restream, which is what I'm using. So if you're watching from LinkedIn, go to the StreamTek channel on YouTube. It looks like, no, it doesn't look like that. It looks like this. Go to the StreamTek channel on YouTube and watch it there. That is, YouTube is the most reliable place to do streaming anywhere. And if you want to comment to be part of the show, definitely go to the YouTube feed and get it there, because LinkedIn, for whatever reason, it's supposed to work. That's why I use Restream, is so that I can pull comments in from LinkedIn, from YouTube, from Twitch, and from Facebook. And, you know, all of that's supposed to work, but I just found out today during pre-show when I tested it that it's not working from LinkedIn. So if you want to join in with your comments and have questions answered, go over to YouTube. So let me go back to our guests. Jesse Williams is watching in London. Mike Sabatini, thanks for coming back, and is in LaSalle, Illinois. And Freddie Alvarez is watching up from, I hope, sunny California. And it's only 9 a.m. in California, which would make it 11 o'clock, which means I got the time right. So thank you for that. Jesse Williams says it's 5 p.m. British Standard Time. And watching from Cape Verde, West Africa. Time did confuse me, hence my first comment. Yes, it is. It was a bit of a juggle, and actually Facebook, or one of them, got it wrong first, so I had to go in and change it a couple places. So, oof, yes. And Wolfgang, hey, guess what? We have a big EU contingent today. Greetings, an unfamiliar but sunny environment. Welcome. So, thank you all for being here. And I appreciate that. Again, welcome everyone to the show. Very unique show today. And as always, throughout the entire show, feel free to throw your streaming questions into the comments, except on LinkedIn, so that we can get them and answer them live. This is like if you were interested in mimoLive, and it's like, man, I have a question, but then you got to go through the community support, you got to send an email, and you got to wait and everything. What if you didn't have to wait? What if, like, the author of the program was like right there, and the CEO of the company was right there, and you could have those questions answered live? So I'm going to let our audience feel free to throw some mimoLive questions in. But while they're doing that, Um, mimoLive is how old now? I mean, it's this mimoLive is the evolution. It was something else first.
Yeah, it was called Boinx TV in the beginning,
That's it. That's it.
and we shipped the first version sometime around 2008. So it's quite mature and very
Yes.
well tested, and so it's running for a long time.
I think the first one was like two sources or something like that.
The concept of multiple sources was already in there, but the computers weren't able to handle more sources. Right now, you get a Mac Mini M4 for $700. You can run, 4K cameras, and that's no problem. But back then, it was a different game. The Macs, you had to choose. You had to carefully choose your Mac to be able to do anything sensible.
Well, and not to disparage Macs, anything computing level back then in
Yeah.
2008 was a lot less powerful. Phones were a lot less powerful. Tablets, I don't even think tablets were a thing then. But we got our first question already from our audience. Is Mimo only for Apple?
Yeah, it's focusing. We're focusing on the Apple platforms. That's where we're good at. We won a couple of Apple Design Awards. So that's the environment we know. That we're experts on this, so we can make sure that the application runs very smoothly, high performance, and uses all the good things that are on the Mac platform. If you had to do all of that for Windows, we would have to do a lot more development, because in the Mac operating system, there's really a lot interesting stuff for video production. So, yeah,
Yeah,
Mac only for now.
and 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 for those who don't know, the Mac, the Apple operating system does a lot of behind the scenes handling. Like if you wanted to deal with video, when you started this program, you would only have to write to QuickTime, and QuickTime would do the actual codec handling and all that nitty gritty stuff. Apple did a lot of, like problem solving. And on Windows, it's sort of like every single codec, every single little nuance, you have to like write into the program. So it's a lot harder, and you don't have control over the processor and the video card and all of that stuff. So you really can't guarantee the experience for the end user. Whereas nowadays, especially with the M series chips, there's quite a powerful processing capability in these machines. And like you said, the M4 Mini, I think, delivers an amazing bang for the buck, so to speak. And, it's cost effective compared to any micro form factor PC. I mean, yeah, you could, build a huge gaming PC that'll have more horsepower, but it's this big.
Yeah, it's not only that it's Apple does an amazing job at abstracting all that behind. So as an application developer, you really don't care about what graphics card is in there, what configuration, what processor, how much RAM, and so on and so forth. It just works basically, and of course, the more sources you do, the more graphics you do, sometimes you run into like the limits of the system. But and that is interesting, because it makes the question, what Mac should I use, pretty damn hard to answer. But it's for us, it's like we don't care what computer it runs on, what Mac it runs on. Currently, the current version of mimoLive goes back to maybe 2011. Maybe 2014 Max, and it still runs there. So and we don't care if there's what kind of graphics it is. Is it an Intel processor? Is it an ARM processor? There's no special code for to deal with these kinds of things.
Right, and we had Alonso chime in here, and he says that Mimo is fantastic software he discovered years ago and used it suggested to many friends and customers. And obviously, as with any software tool, there's probably a bazillion software tutorials on YouTube about it, because YouTube is the great. My dad used to call it YouTube University.
Yes, yes, and that's a good point, because we are starting to publish more YouTube, more tutorials on mimoLive on YouTube, and that's actually how we got in touch for the show, Anthony, because you provided some interesting feedback on the tutorial, the way we make the tutorials. Yeah.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, actually, it's funny. I brought up the website here, and
Yeah, that's
and it comes in German, of course, because I'm in
yes.
Germany.
Yeah, I'm currently redesigning the website. So what you're looking at is like the yesterday's failed attempt at being good at search engine optimization.
uh,
So
but I think
you should
just for the
really
sake of
look
people who
at the
are
next
watching,
ones. Yeah.
this is, for those who might be familiar with vMix or other tools like that, or Wirecast, this is another one of the many tools that are available for end users. So if Wirecast doesn't float your boat, if you're on a Mac and you're not on a PC, then this is a tool that's available, that's out there for you to choose. And I am not I have both platforms. I have both kinds of phones. I don't really cherish one over the other. But this one is multi-camera live switching. As you can see by the screen down here, it's vertical and horizontal. You've got the simulcasting, so you can go out to multiple destinations. And it's been around for a long time. Maybe not the Mac Plus era, but
well,
you
if you
know.
switch, if you go to the bottom right now left corner, there's a pop-up menu that lets you switch the language.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
English.
and now it's in the it's in the bottom left corner.
So it's definitely a solution for people who are Mac based, and
Hmm.
maybe their studio is Mac based, and they're looking to do stuff, and they looked at vMix and other tools, and they were like, we don't want to switch to Windows. Or if they looked at the TriCaster Visit, the Visit TriCaster S, which now runs on any computer that you want to supply, but that's also Windows only. And they were like, listen, we know Macs, we are a Mac studio and everything. This is the solution that's available. Wirecast is cross-platform, so it's not the only solution, but it's definitely something that, as we said in the beginning, has almost 2 decades of evolution behind it. So there's a lot going on here. And
Yeah.
just want to be clear to people that's like, this is not a paid advertisement. Just because I'm traveling and I can't show hardware because I didn't bring any hardware with me, so I'm just doing a series of interview shows. So just so that people don't think, oh, he bought to be on the show. He did not buy to be on the show. I don't have the expertise to show mimoLive, but it was my thought that, hey, maybe Oliver might be able to show mimoLive for us.
Yeah, I love to do these kinds of things. And to one point, you're saying there's other solutions. So mimoLive is quite different from vMix and Wirecast and the other things you mentioned. As I like to call those things the systems from the punch card era of live production, because I went to the computer history museum in California, and I went into that room where they had these old punch card computer systems, and it's really like you had one machine to duplicate a punch card, you had one machine to read a punch card, you had one machine to write a punch card, you had one machine to calculate or add up the stuff that's on the punch card. And that's how broadcasting works today. It's like you have all these different devices that you stick together and plug it into cables, and they to solve certain problems. And the approach in mimoLive is that we can solve all these problems in software inside mimoLive. So it's basically just put some video in, do whatever you need, conversions, scaling, frame rate conversion, color correction, whatever you want, and then mix multiple together, make a beautiful layout and then send it out to whatever you want this to happen. So this is like the evolution step from, this old model to a software-based model. And most of the other vendors out there, they try to emulate the old model in software, and that's where we said no. We don't want to emulate the old way of doing things. We want to find a new way of doing things, and that's why we made mimoLive. It's like we wanted to have a system where we can run a TV show from a laptop in our living room, and not have to have like racks and racks and racks of equipment. So that's where this comes in.
So in terms of like, that brings up a question from me. And again, for anyone watching, feel free to throw comments into the, throw your questions into the comments, except if you're on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's not working, so go to YouTube. We say it's Mac based, but the Mac and iOS are getting so close together. Is it iOS? Does it run on iOS too, or is it just Mac based?
It's for now it's only Mac based, and the reason for that is that the graphics engine that it's built around is not available on iOS. It's based on something called Quartz Composer, and we are currently working. For a couple of years now, we are working on our own replacement for it, and replacement will eventually work on all the Apple platforms. It won't work on Windows, although someone could make a version that works on Windows, but it will eventually work on all the platforms. And I think in the future, maybe something like an iPad version might be interesting. Maybe working a little different. Maybe just taking parts of what mimoLive does right now into the portable and into the tablet world. But for a couple of years now, we offer something called a remote control surface. And that's sort of the vision I had for using those devices, is like you put a remote, and I forgot to bring, maybe I can bring it up on my my iPhone real quick.
So you could build the whole thing, build your studio, build all the setup on the computer, and then just run it from a remote surface.
And then, yeah, you just have like a remote control surface with, just a few buttons that allow you to control the entire show. So setting up the show in mimoLive can be really complicated because it's a very mighty tool, and you can do crazy stuff with automations and things like that. But then you can take the essential of running your show, like the 3-4 things you want to do during a show, like a 2-up or start recording or something like that. You can put that on the remote control surface and then give it to someone who doesn't have to know all the in and outs. They just have to know, okay, we are in phase, opening, and there's a button that says opening, and then it will, or pre-show, and then it will just switch everything to whatever you need and turn on the streams and whatever. And there's just this one button that does all of that. And then you go to the next phase where your introduction of the guest or something, and then everything changes automatically. And that's sort of what we think it should be. It shouldn't be like you have a bunch of thousands of buttons and then you frantically hitting buttons so that you make it look like what it should look like. But there's just one button that just makes it look, changes the layout and the output so that it does what you want. And that's and we put that on the device so that you can, imagine you're doing a sports broadcast and you can sit in the bleachers and control, or you can walk around even and control the show from wherever you are.
Right. And that's, so in terms of remote control, you've got your software that can do the touchscreen remote control. It's also compatible with the StreamTek. A lot of people like to have physical tactile buttons and things like that.
There is a StreamTek plugin that allows you to control mimoLive. Up till a couple of months ago, the problem with the StreamTek was that in mimoLive we have this concept of a document of a show that is created inside a document. So each show can be different, and the StreamTek, you have to design the StreamTek control surface outside of mimoLive, so it doesn't always match whatever you do in mimoLive. So basically, that there's a disconnect between the remote control the remote control on the StreamTek and what mimoLive actually what the document actually defines, how many sources you have and things like that. And so the power of the remote control surface as a virtual iPad app is that you can make multiple of those different ones for different people. For example, one for the person who switches the video sources, one for the person who does the graphics, one for the person who does the video, plays the videos that you want to show, and one for the person who does the audio, for example. And then you can use all of them at the same time and control the show. Or you can put all of that on one, and then you make one show for a talk show like this, and then you have another show for a sports broadcast, and there's a different set of sources. You have different cameras, you have different things, and the remote control you define for this show that you set up, and it stays with that show. So you get the remote control surface can be exactly what you need for this show, and it saves with the document. So next time you run the same show again, you have the same remote control surface, and you don't have to go dig into configurations or whatever and change that. So that's also, you can resize the buttons and make them bigger, and have bigger buttons and smaller buttons, and you can even have sliders for like volume, or even like a zoom or zoom factor or something like that you can control directly with touch on the iPad.
Right. And so we got a couple questions that have come in already. Yeah. One of them is from Alonzo. What would be the minimum requirements for 4 NDI cameras? I mean, I know we said the M4 chip is super powerful, and it's the latest and greatest thing. But if somebody was looking,
it's sort of there's two things that you have to consider. The one thing is, what is the output you want? Is that 4K 60 or is that 1080p 30? Right. So 30 frames 1080, or 4K and 60 frames, or and that kind of thing. And what's the source? The camera, there's cameras that use high bandwidth NDI, and 4K 60 in high bandwidth NDI. The problem there is that you probably max out the Ethernet interface in the Mac. Yeah. So I'm running 4 and 5 NDI 1080p 30 productions on my Mac Mini, on my MacBook Air, and no issues there, right? So and we stream to 3 different things, do an ISO recording, and all of that at the same time on the MacBook Air, right? And you can do the same thing on a Mac Mini M4. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of different things come into play there. Another question comes in and says, what would be your usual setup if you're doing NDI or have an SDI and HDMI Blackmagic capture device and a Thunderbolt enclosure? Is that something that mimoLive supports as well, like a capture card over Thunderbolt?
Yes, we support all the Blackmagic devices, directly with their SDK, which means that it's very low overhead, so it's very performant, high performance. If you use a external Thunderbolt card, you can get a 8-channel SDI card from Blackmagic, and do 8 SDI in 1080p 30, no problems at all. Or 6 in, 2 out, or something like that, easily supported. I'm a big fan of NDI because it means that you don't have to have these kinds of things, and you can have one Ethernet cable to the camera, and that provides power, control, video, everything from the camera to the camera. So it's very fast to set up. So we have a couple of PTC cameras. We go into a venue, and it takes literally half an hour to set up a 3-camera shoot for an event or something like that. And we designed something called the NDI in a box, which is basically it's a rack, just a very small thing that has a Ethernet switch in it, and it has an OWC Thunderbolt dock in it, so you can interface your laptop with this system. And it has a little router, so we can provide all the DHCP and internet connection and things like that to this system. So it's a system that is totally self-sufficient NDI, and we just plug in the cameras and you go. And that's my go-to system for that. And as I said, I usually use my MacBook Air M2. Now I have an M4 MacBook Air. Use that, and we can do 3, 4, 5 camera NDI camera stream with this.
That's very nice. In fact, now that we're talking a little bit about it, I was hoping you could walk us through the interface a little bit for those who haven't seen mimoLive. I can share that screen.
Sure. So when you launch mimoLive, you're presented, once you've set up all the licensing and stuff, you're presented with this chooser, and we have a couple of templates that give you insights into a couple of use cases, and so on and so forth. And we can make a new document. You can see that I've used this in 4K before, so I'm going back to 1080p 30, create a new document. And so this is a document-based system. We can have multiple documents open at the same time, so I can make multiple productions using the same multiple productions is the wrong word, but I can, for example, do one output in portrait and one in landscape, using the same cameras and the same using 2 different documents. The document follows a very simple flow. At the top, left, we have the sources. We have the sources where everything comes in. The layer stack is where everything gets processed. The layer settings are, I can show you that later on. And then we have the output. Output destinations where everything gets sent. So this is very basic. From left to right is basically the processing of the signal, right? So I can quickly add an NDI camera and use this. This interesting thing is I'm remotely controlling this Mac from 6,000 miles away. So this computer is up in Seattle. I'm in Austria and on the other side of the world. So I'm remotely controlling this machine. And as you can see with NDI, one of the great things is that we can have NDI sources from around the world. And this one happens to be in the view out of the window of the venue where we have this machine. So if I add a source and a placer and turn it live, this is basically how I create my first output video. And then I can say, okay, let's record this or stream it or send it into whatever. Let's do a file recording. And basically I can just press this green button here and it starts recording. So I can really quickly set up my production workflow, and then I can get as complicated as I want. The layer stack, if you are familiar with Photoshop, is a bit like, or is like Photoshop, and all the layers represent some content. So let's do some clouds, for example. I have clouds, and the position in the layer stack determines where the video is displayed. So right now the clouds would be behind the placer, and so you can't see them in program output. And if I switch that to the front, then they are in the front. And because I don't want to lose the background, I can just turn off the background. And I have some graphics, and this is a live camera. And if I switch on the multi-view, I can select the camera. And since it's a PTC NDI camera, I can control it. So you see how it moves. Let's make it a little bigger to do the first screen exposed. So we have the program output a little bigger. Yeah, so I can, and this is a Mac Mini M4 that's running there in a rack, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got a question come in about subscriptions. So this software is subscription based, right?
Yes, it is. It is subscription based, and you need an active subscription to use it. But you can pause the subscription if you're not having any productions for a month or so or two. You simply pause them. It's a monthly or yearly subscription. You can't pause the yearly subscription, of course, but you can have a monthly subscription and then pause it when you don't need the software.
So basically, like most any software that we subscribe to, like, I have Adobe Premiere, and when I don't pay for it, because I have stopped paying for it, I can't even open the application. It just won't open. So, yes. And I guess that's the same with this software.
Well, we do have a free license that you can get. It's called the evaluation license. But it's basically perpetually free, and the only thing it does, it adds a watermark. So it's basically like some of these web-based services where you, if you don't pay, you are in sort of like a demo mode. But the software isn't limited. You can use any feature. It just adds a watermark that you can't remove.
Interesting. Because I know, like right now, I'm using Restream, but I know that StreamYard has a trial version or a free version, and they put their logo in the corner, and it's always there. You can't get rid of it. When you're on the free version, it's there. As soon as you purchase any level, that you can turn that off. So it's cool that you have basically an unlimited trial of all features, not limited to like just a core bit, and I think for anyone testing something, for someone who wants to get to know it and see if it works for them, putting a watermark on it is inconsequential at all. It's like, listen, I need to know if it'll work. I don't care about the damn watermark, and then once I learn it, say, okay, this is really gonna work. Let me unlock it and use it for real.
So yeah, you can actually do that and do all your work you need to do, like setting up the show and things like that. And when you have the production, you just get a license for a month, and then you can do the production and then just cancel the license again, and then you can still work with the document and still make changes. You only have to have you will only have the watermark in there.
And in terms of, you talked about something that I think is really kind of important these days, is that doing both vertical and horizontal at the same time. I know a lot of people are interested in that because of TikTok and Instagram and things like that.
Yeah, I can just go and do portrait full HD and create a new document. And now I have the same document in portrait, and I can use the same video source. and since it's the same video source, I can't. I don't have to. I don't have to. I don't have to. I don't have two times the production, the processing power. You know, it's basically the same. It's using the same video, and I can have two different things at the same time. And you can see if I can. Let me see if I can arrange that here.
You need more
If
screen.
I move that camera, it will move also in the it will also move in the vertical.
Oh, that's very cool.
And one of the things that is really cool about mimoLive is that you can have arbitrary things like 700 by, you know, 320 or something like that, or even 700 by 700 pixels. You know, it's basically very, you know, whatever format you need.
Right.
Maybe you need something for, you know, we had one of these rotating hologram projecting things
Oh
at
yeah, the
one
little
trade show,
spinning LEDs.
and they have like a, you know, their format is like whatever 256 by 256 or something, and you know, just do that, and do that, yes, and then I can, you know, take any video and just convert it quickly to that format, because I just, you know, drag in the video file into the sources column, put it in the placer, hit play, and record a converted version. So it's a very versatile tool. It's not only for you know, live production. It's also for all kinds of, you know, quick tasks. I would say, for example, you
Right,
know,
right.
if you need lower thirds for Final Cut, or something like that, you can go in and do lower thirds, save them as a ProRes 4x4, which is a transparent format, and use them in Final Cut or in DaVinci or in Premiere, just with a transparent background.
Now we got another question in because apparently, like we're doing here, you have the ability to accept people calling in as well.
Yes.
So we had a question come in. In the past, I've had issues with Mimo Call. It was not as stable. Is it better now?
That depends on when this this was. We now have. I mean, now if you're concerned about the stability, so there's advantages over MimoCall is a WebRTC based system, so it has very high bandwidth, very good quality, high audio quality, all kind of stuff. But one of the disadvantages is that we can't make sure that it runs on any device, because that's we are, you know, we are dependent basically on what WebRTC does in that regard, and it's very hard to test with all the different browsers on all the different devices. So now, if you want to do anything, you can simply use Zoom and join a Zoom meeting, and we do have a demo meeting with 8 talking heads set up. And you can just go into that meeting using that demo thing. And now I can pick any one of these people that are there as a source, and I get audio and video isolated from Zoom. So I just pick Michelle, for example, and I can put her on the Motic view, and now I have someone from Zoom in mimoLive, and you see that it's not screen scraping or something like that. It's just getting the full video and audio 1080p. It goes up eventually to 1080p when Zoom allows that. Now it's at 1080p, as you can see here. And I can use that for you know, production if I want to, you know, instead of WebRTC.
So you have full Zoom integration for those who want something that's a little to have a little bit more control over rather than WebRTC, because I know myself, I have used WebRTC on multiple type of things, and whether it be vMix call, whether it be a standalone device that has a call-in feature, and a lot of time is spent working with the person calling in. Are you using the right browser? Do you have anything else running? Do you have a
Yeah.
firewall installed? And then there's all these issues you have to work your way through. And it's not limited to any one particular software or hardware solution. It's there's other things that are going on.
Yeah. And that's the other side of this is, of course, that we don't have control over the quality of the video that's being sent to us. So if, for example, if you join a Zoom call, if someone joins that Zoom call on a phone, on a mobile phone, the quality goes back to 720p just because they've joined that Zoom call. And for example, that is something we can't control.
Right. And I know Zoom itself will, depending upon the quality of the connection, bring a quality level down to 360, 480, and step it down just to maintain a connection. It'll dynamically scale it down and scale it back up. So
WebRTC will do the same thing, but we do have a little more control over it. And we can quicker go back to trying the full bandwidth, and we you can click reconnect and it will start again and things like that, which Zoom doesn't allow us to.
right. Yeah. We got another question come in. Emmanuel asks, is there a perpetual license?
As I explained, you can have this evaluation license, which is not perpetual, but it automatically renews, and you don't have to pay for it. But we keep it to a month and then renew it automatically, because we want to know who keeps using mimoLive and who doesn't use it. But that's in basically your perpetual license. If you want to buy a perpetual license, the problem is it would be so expensive that nobody wants to buy it. And that's why it's a subscription.
And I think subscription, for a lot of these tools, seems to be fairly commonplace. The Visit TriCaster S is basically subscription, or it's this really high initial price.
I saw I think the example that Emmanuel said is a New Blue Captivate. I think I might be wrong about this, but a lot of other vendors do this. It's like you have a perpetual license, but if you want to do updates, you have to buy basically what amounts to a subscription to get the next upgrades. You buy, basically you buy a 1-year license. Then after a year, you don't get any updates. If you want updates, you have to buy another 1-year license, and that's basically the same thing. It's just packaged differently. Because the economic reality is that we can't live on perpetual licenses anymore, and also the upgrade or update cycles are much faster now. New things coming out that you want to have supported, it doesn't make sense to keep those features from people who don't have a license, and make it really complicated to manage all of this. And I think a license, a subscription is best for everyone, for the user and for the vendor. I understand that people are upset that they have to manage all these licenses, and I know the problem as well. But it's the business model that works for both of us. And if you are a pro user, you can deduct you don't have to you calculate differently with the costs, right? You have the monthly costs, and the license for mimoLive is just part of that monthly cost. And as I said, we make it as easy as possible so that people can cancel their subscription for the next month if they don't need it. Really, we don't throw up any any hurdles that you have to jump to cancel and things like that. So,
well, you also mentioned keeping things up to date, and that brings us to something I wanted to talk about. Like, there's this new NDI competitor, and I'm not talking about SMPTE 2110. I'm talking about Open Media Transport, which is OMT. And I actually watched the vMix video from the end of IBC. They did a little live show from the show floor, and Martin actually admitted that he contributed their internal live recording codec to OMT. It's now open source. It's now included. Anybody can use it for anything, and it's interesting. This competitor now, it's not NDI. This is like just starting to come out. It has some basic. It's a local area network only functionality, but Central Control has also jumped on the OMT bandwagon. So Central Control can generate signals, and you can use a Raspberry Pi. They've got software on a Raspberry Pi that can be used to either capture or play out. So for the cost of like a Bird Dog Flex, you could have a hardware converter either in or out. And so there's some interesting functionality there. And in that, if they can get a couple hardware companies on board, that could be interesting because there's no licensing fee. Whereas with NDI, there's a lot of companies like OBSBot and the YOLO box. It's like, here, you can buy this box, but if you want to activate NDI, it's going to cost more. And OMT is sort of like saying, listen, if you manufacturers want to build this in, that's it. So what are your thoughts on OMT, just in general? I'm curious.
Yeah, so there's the business side of things, and I think competition makes I don't know what the English saying is, but if I think it's a good thing to have something that competes with NDI. And of course, NDI has a head start, a very big head start, and
oh, yeah.
So that's the business side. And I think that vMix, the guys at vMix made this OMT. I'm very happy that they did. It's a great thing, because there's always this this lingering threat that NDI might change their license model, and there was a lot of there was a lot of discussion.
They just did a little bit too,
and there was a lot of discussion in the last month or two, because there was suddenly wording in the license agreement that hinted that you would have to pay a license fee for the basic tier of the SDK in the future and things like that. They've now cleared that up and said, the basic SDK will always be free for the software development. It's the hardware that's going to cost money. So they get the license fees from the camera vendors and the hardware device guys, and from software vendors who want to add like HDR and things like that, or do iPhone apps and things like that. And I think OMT is going to help make, help manage this threat. And that's why I think vMix came up with this. And it's, of course, interesting. There's a couple of technical things right now that they have to solve. One is that Blackmagic has apparently voiced interest in one of the forums in supporting OMT, which would be nice.
Really? Oh, really? Because
But
it's interesting because they have. Mhm.
yeah, I think they don't support NDI because NDI means that if you support NDI on your device, it means that basically NDI takes over the device. So they go in and program that for you, and so I don't think the Blackmagic guys want anyone on their hardware. But the issue apparently is that they're using a version of the ARM processor that is not yet supported by OMT, and I hope that gets resolved, and then they can they can make that happen, and we'll have another interesting vendor support that.
It is an interesting protocol.
And this problem is not only for the Blackmagic cameras; it's also basically for all the PTC cameras, because they don't use the high-end ARM processors. They only use like the older, lower performance ones, and that is not supported yet. Apparently, I don't I don't have the insights in that. So there's a technical thing. That's currently, and then it's also like the business side. How many camera vendors can they get on board? And I haven't heard from anyone yet that they committed to supporting it. But
well,
I'm sure everyone is looking at it. I mean, it's like
it is new. It is new. I grant them that, because, like you says, NDI has a huge 10-year head start. SMPTE has been a protocol that has been around for many years, even though Blackmagic just sort of like added it to their hardware. But the networking demands of SMPTE 2110 are huge, and while OMT is not as efficient as NDI with HX3, it does have some simplicity that could possibly make it very interesting to certain camera makers, I think. But then, of course, we're talking about the fact that software protocol would need to be firmware added to the camera after the fact, which is engineering cost to build it. And then if there's no license fee, how does that get paid for?
Yeah, so that comes back to the subscription model thing, right? So, but I wouldn't want to pay a subscription for my camera. That's sure. The other big thing I think is you mentioned that they contributed their vMix contributed their internal codec. So the current codec they're using, this is like the good thing about that is that it avoids any patent or licensing issues. On the other hand, there's no hardware support in any computer for this codec. So it's basically running all in software. And one of the great things about the mimoLive on the Mac and with NDI is that if you're using HX, it's using H.264 or H.265 codecs, and there's a lot of processing power in the Mac hardware to deal with these decoding and encoding of these codecs, and that makes it so that if you save a file in H.265 or H.264 on the Mac, it really basically doesn't add any CPU cost.
Right, because it could be handed off to a dedicated chip just for those codecs.
It's handed off to the media engine, and that handles the coding, encoding or decoding of H.264. And there's like there's a tool for NDI that lets you test. Let me see if I have it installed on that machine. That lets you test how many streams you could decode on this machine. And the Mac Mini is in the 60 or 70, 1080p 30. Let me see if I have that. Is that in library?
I'd be curious to see it.
Where is that in NDI/NDI? I don't know if I have that installed there. Let me see. Yeah, maybe we should talk about something else while I'm looking at that. Where is it? It should be in library.
So one of the things that I did not get to IBC this year,
Yeah,
and
me neither. I had to take care of a sick
we,
person.
we, we have life happens,
Yeah.
and I was looking forward to some interesting news. There's of course camera introductions and software evolving of various the hardware mixers and things like that. I think OMT is an interesting revelation, even if it doesn't get a firm foothold into the hardware. It's there as an option, and I think it helps keep the NDI. I want to say the NDI group, but it's not actually been freed up to its own independent group. It's still owned by Vizard, and I think it helps keep now there's something else at that level that people and companies could switch to if they get really frustrated with NDI licensing. They could be like, okay, fine, if you're going to be like that, we're going to adopt this other thing. And I think, like you said, the competition really does help to keep things at bay in terms of what the consumer has to think about and worry about. Because the last thing I want to have to worry about as an end user is all of a sudden now I've been used to using NDI and now I can't because what, you're not allowed to use that anymore because that software has been made illegal or something like that. It's
Oh,
under
these
license.
are the application tools that ship with the NDI SDK, and there's one that's called the NDI benchmark, Mac NDI benchmark. And if you look at that and run that, it detects the 10 CPU cores of that Mac Mini M4, which is a different one. This is not the one that's in Seattle. That's the one in Frankfurt. So there's a European hosting company called OakHost. And you see it's like 60 streams of 1080p 60 that this machine could theoretically deal with. So yeah, that is quite impressive, I would say.
That would be very nice.
Yeah. I don't think you can get 60 streams over the internet.
No, and the bandwidth would be a little challenging.
Yes, yes.
Wolfgang says it's exciting software, even though he's a Windows and a vMix user. And I am a vMix user too, but I always love to be aware of what else is out there, because you never know when you might be in a situation where, let's just say I'm in a Mac studio, and it's like one of the key things, especially in terms of corporate, is listen, we need to do some production. We have to do it on these machines, but these machines are locked down to our network. You can't bring in your own PC. You can't plug it into our network because you won't be able to access things. If you have enough time, you can go to the IT department. They can get the MAC address and da da da. They have to verify there's no viruses on your machine and all this stuff. Whereas sometimes it's just easier, and I've done this, is I produce on my vMix machine and I come out HDMI into an HDMI capture card into the client's laptop, which then goes into their Teams meeting. And it's basically just this little hop over that because we can't use the same physical Ethernet network to connect these things. And so we end up doing, what do they call it? Sneakernet.
Sneakernet, yes. Yeah, so, that's of course one of the problems you face if you go voice over AV over IP is dealing with the IT department. And I find that the NDI in a box system I talked about earlier is one of the ways to go about this and say, we have our own closed system. We don't need to connect to the corporate network. It's all self-contained. The only thing would be nice is to have one drop from the internet. It doesn't have to connect to anything in the corporate network, just one an internet connection, and that's it. And it might be one way to deal with an IT department that doesn't want to deal with AV over IP.
Oh,
Um,
I've done exactly that. I for years until COVID hit, I had a portable rack with a TriCaster Mini in it, but it also had an audio mixer, an 8-port gigabit router with 4 ports of power over Ethernet. It had a router in it so that I could plug in whatever WAN I had available, and then it went into my own local area network, and all my cameras and all my stuff was mine, owning the network, And I tell people it's like you need to own the network as if you were going to bring your own HDMI or SDI cables. The fact that they're Ethernet doesn't mean you rely on what's in the building. You bring your own because you wouldn't expect anywhere you went to have a bunch of HDMI cables to connect all your cameras. I
mhm,
don't expect their public network or their private network to be usable by me either. I have to bring my own networking all the time.
mhm.
Oh, rain
Yeah,
went off outside. That is
I'm
interesting.
gonna let. Oops, this is not the one. This is the one. Oops. Oh, this is the NDI in a box. So basically, that basically only the only thing is the Netgear thing, right? The Netgear switch here. Um, and then these connectors in the front are just the connectors from the back fed to the
Rerouted to
front,
the front, right?
so that they are strain relieved, so they don't if you plug in and unplug stuff all the time, the eventually the connectors will wear out. And if that happens, you don't have to throw away the Netgear switch. You can just
Replace the
replace
little
the one
dongle there.
thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's what we use. And basically the system allows you also, I mean, to use a Windows PC with Remix on it, or OBS or whatever. um, it's in this case the core mimoLive gets added with the laptop, right? So
Right, right. So yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of solutions out there. Oh, we got Emmanuel jumps in here and says, in his personal and honest opinion, there's no other software that can compare to mimoLive. Uh,
that's very nice, thank you.
it's great, it's powerful and easy to use. And I think, that's one of the things, like when we started out, I says there's lots of different tools out there. I wanted to highlight Mimo. I don't have expertise in using Mimo, so I thank you for being on today's show to be able to talk about it and show it off. But there's lots of different tools, whether Mac or PC, that people want to use. And with the ability to get the demo license and to try it out and have full functionality, I think if you're on a Mac, it's an opportunity to get to know and understand another choice that's out there. Because yes, OBS is on a Mac, and yes, Wirecast is on a Mac, but hey, this is another tool that's on a Mac that also lets you do things. And like you showed, the operating interface is a little bit different, and different people like to work different ways. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show, and giving me the chance to talk about mimoLive. And we can do that anytime again if you want.
All right, Oliver. I look forward to I may take you up on that, down the road. So thank you very much, and
Yeah,
I will look forward to talking with you later.
thank you.
So again, thank you to everyone who chimed in today in the comments. I really appreciate you. Wolfgang jumped in and says it's exciting software, even though I'm a Windows and vMix user. And as I said, I am as well. Red Carpet jumped in there and says he made it into the live from Miami. So thank you for being there as well. As I mentioned, I am traveling. I will also be traveling next week, but I actually hope to have Joe from Central Control joining me on next week's show. We're still firming that up, but if you're interested in Central Control, and we can even talk to him a little bit about OMT as well, because that is very interesting, feel free to join me on next week's show. And as always, because I'm traveling, I don't have my normal outro, so I am just going to say, hi, my name is Anthony Barocas from StreamTek. Oh, I should say that if you are watching the show, please like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. There's lots of information here. And if you are interested in mimoLive, you could type in mimolive, and you will find out that I don't have anything on mimoLive. Oh, except for today's show. And I do mention it in my 215 streaming tips in 42 minutes video. But if you were interested in vMix, you could type in vMix, and then you can see I got a little bit more on that because that's the tool that I use. Or if you're interested in the TriCaster, your ICASTER, TriCaster, that's one of the cool tools on YouTube that you can search for what you're looking for to see if I have covered it. So go feel free to check that out on the StreamTek channel. And as always, there's also the producer conversations, which technically this is kind of a producer conversation, so you can check those out. The live shows, gear, technology explanations, gear demos, and some studio tours, although there's not that many there. If you are also interested, I write for Streaming Media Magazine. I have done that for well over a decade, and you can find many of my reviews and columns here at streamingmedia.com. And if you want to reach out to me, you can go to streamtek.us, and there's a little contact us up here in the corner where you can reach out to me if you're looking for some consulting. I also, not that one, I also run the thank you very much. I don't know why it does that. It did that last time too. It refreshes to something else. I run the B4 on Micro Four Thirds. So this is putting big ENG lenses on Micro Four Thirds cameras. B4 on M43 group on Facebook. And if you're looking for something that's iPad based, let's see if it refreshes. Yep, it refreshed. Thank you, Facebook, for just introducing more pain in the ass. I run this group on Facebook, and this is for the Teradek AirMix software, which was for iPads, iPhones, and Android phones. They have stopped support of this, but they also released it fully functioning, taking all of the paid add-ons off and made it freely available in the various I want to say iOS and Google Play stores so that you can download it, try it out, and if it doesn't work for you, there's a support group here of now 58 members who can probably answer your question to see if it's possible. So I run that as well. And as always, I would look forward to seeing all of you next week on next week's show. So